tell my younger self to just chill out. I feel like I was constantly moving and going and socializing with my friends and just wanting to force so many life experiences to happen because, I don't know, I didn't think that, I was running on limited time and I just needed to do everything that I wanted to do.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Christine from Christine and Things, and I have my first interview guest here with me today, and it's my friend Ralph Rasalan from high school. Can you tell us about yourself, Ralph?
Yeah, hello. I didn't realize I was the first, so I'm excited and honored. I am Ralph. I am 32, currently based in San Francisco, and I've been living here for about 12 years now. I live here in the city with my husband and our 2 cats, and yeah, I think that sums up my current life.
Wow, so what have you been up to since high school? We haven't seen each other since high school.
I know, it's been, 14 years now?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I feel like, yeah, a lot. And I was telling you, before we started this interview that I have been tuning in on social media, just seeing what you're doing. So I see everything that you're doing and working on, which is a lot and always, but like I said, I'm excited about all of the exploration that you've had in the years. But for me, I think, if I'm to sum like the last 10 years of my life, it was like school for a bit, and then corporate life. I was working at a tech startup for like almost 7 years, and I got laid off at the beginning of the pandemic. So I feel like that characterized a lot of like who I am and like what I was doing over a big chunk of time that I've been living here in the city. But during the pandemic, I've really been leaning into my film photography and yoga. I got certified to teach yoga at the beginning of August, so a couple months now, and I've been teaching classes regularly for the last few weeks now.
I love it. I've been watching you also, just like peripherally on social media too, and I know that you've been doing a lot of film photography. I love it. It's a lot of black and white stuff, and also traveling with taking photos and then doing your yoga and the Zoom classes that you do. So I'm really excited for you to start this new venture for both things, and it's been great. I love watching what you're doing to help yourself grow.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. I think I've always been a creative person, but film photography and yoga has really provided me with like really, really strong and firm, outlets to really explore, which I feel like, it's hard when you're in a corporate setting and working, and that's like your primary thing. But yeah, I've been loving it.
That's awesome. And then did you move to San Francisco right after high school, or how did that happen?
No, actually. So I decided to not move. It's funny. There were so many things that happened like at the end of high school for me. My dad passed away like in January before we graduated. So I made a very conscious decision to stick around Santa Maria for a bit. I was actually supposed to attend UCLA.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was hoping to get into Berkeley, but I ended up in the Bay Area anyway. But yeah, a lot of things happened at the end of high school, so I decided to stay at home to support my family during that time, and went to community college for a couple of years, and then I transferred out to San Francisco State in 2008. So I finished the rest of my bachelor's there, did a little bit of grad school after that, and then, worked a corporate job for the last 7 years. So I've been in San Francisco since 2008. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, you've had quite a journey. I'm sorry about your dad. How are you doing now?
Great, yeah. I think time, and, people say this all the time, it's like time heals all wounds. And I think that's true in a lot of ways, but 14 years later, I feel like, you can still feel, trauma and just things that have really happened in your life in that kind of way years and years and years down the line. But feeling A-okay, I feel like, my family and having that kind of support system was really key to really grieving and getting through it. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like you had a good support system then.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What is something people do not know about you?
I thought hard about this because I'm like, I know the question's going to come up, and I always like to think of something on the fly because I love that spontaneity of it. Let me see. Okay, I was literally thinking of one this morning, and now I can't remember what it was. Okay. Okay. I got it. So I felt like I've always known, who I was, at least in terms of like being, a gay man and a gay individual. I came out when I was 15, so at the beginning of high school, I was like, I'm just gonna do it. It was scary. It was, where we come from on the Central Coast, it's not, and at that time, it was not, and it's still not a very like liberal or open kind of place in that kind of way, or accepting of difference or being different. So I feel like I've always just been so sure of who I am in that respect. And yeah, I think once I finally had a label that I could say, oh yeah, this is what it is. What I feel, this is what it is. I made that decision to come out. Yeah. So I feel like I was, one of the very few people, at least in my age group, that came out during that time. So
yeah, I think
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting experience.
No, I remember that. Like, well, all like the entire time I've known you, you were openly gay. So that wasn't new to me, because that's all I've known you as.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, like I said, it's like that's always how I felt. Like, I think it just took a long time to figure out what to call that and what I wanted to call that, and I just decided to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I first remembered you said you were bisexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now you're openly gay.
Yeah,
so.
I think also at that time it was very on trend to come out in that kind of way.
I see, okay.
It's like, it almost, I don't mean to like discredit it or like make light of the situation in that kind of way, but like, I felt like that was the path that was the most familiar to me, because that's what I saw a lot of people that I peripherally, had known to have come out, like came out in that kind of way, and it felt safe and comforting at the time. And then, like, literally not even like weeks later, I was like, oh, actually, I'm gay.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, I didn't know that you came out in high school. I thought you've just always been like open.
Yeah, out of it's so funny. I was always thinking about it like at the end of junior high, but I feel like in junior high is a completely different kind of experience as well. So it's like, who's coming out in junior high, and like who do you know that's gay in junior high? I'm sure it's a lot different now, but like at that time it's like who do you know that's gay, and like who's really coming out, and like what space is there to come out. So I just decided to go for it.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. That transition from like middle school, junior high to high school, like that identity shift. And then we came from different junior highs, and we met in just like freshman year, I believe, of high school, and like that's already the Ralph I knew. So so it's interesting that you had like kind of like a different identity before like high school. So that's cool to know.
Yeah.
All right. What is something? What's one of the hardest things you've had to overcome in life, and how were you able to get past it if you did?
Yeah, I think something that's just like so relatable is this pandemic. Like it's still going on. Like, not surprising, considering how we U.S. is handling the situation. But I think I probably hit my lowest low at a couple months into the pandemic. I was not creating as much. I wasn't going out and shooting photography as much, just because it felt unsafe to go out in a lot of cases, especially early on, since we were, trying to figure out how to handle this pandemic. And then I was also just starting yoga teacher training, and everything dramatically shifted to an online space. So dealing with like all of those changes, getting laid off from my job, like there were so many changes that happened within the first couple months of the pandemic that I really hit a very low where I wasn't able to really understand what was happening. Like I wasn't sure how I was feeling. Like sometimes it was sadness, sometimes it was anger, sometimes there were so many different feelings that it was at some point hard to figure out what to label it and what exactly it was that I was feeling, and to confidently feel like it was going to change and feel better again. And it lasted for, I think, leading up to it, it was weeks of just constantly changing environment and constantly changing emotions and attitudes and so much of that it compounded to this kind of like peak moment where for a full week I was just in a state where I was like, I don't know who I am, where I'm going. Like it felt like such a confusing experience, and to not be able to label it, and then to not be able to figure out how to take care of it, let alone not confidently feel like it's going to change and get better, was it's just one of those experiences where you really dig yourself into the deepest hole that you possibly can, and yeah, like I feel like that was the first time that I've ever really felt something so strongly in that kind of way, and to not feel like I could control it or just like navigate out of it was, yeah, that was such a jarring experience for me to try to navigate around. And it's like, it's in stark contrast to like, oh, I'm doing this yoga teacher training program where it's like, it's supposed to be feel good and we're like learning more about ourselves and really tuning in that kind of way. And yeah, I think just having that experience and also having this kind of like, not like parallel kind of experience emotionally and mentally with myself was, yeah, it was a lot in a very short amount of time, it felt.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially there are a lot of job losses during the pandemic, a lot of changes, a lot of adjustments. And it sounded like when you were doing the yoga teacher training program, it was like a confusing time because it's very like uplifting and empowering to do yoga while you're feeling this way after yoga. So definitely I can see that it's very confusing.
A very confusing time. I mean, for everyone involved, obviously during this pandemic, everyone's taking it how they take it. But yeah, I think, it's not an uncommon experience, especially, as I'm talking to more of my friends and really understanding where they're at. This whole era of the pandemic has I think for a lot of people been about a lot of self-discovery, but also just a lot of sitting with yourself in this current moment and really evaluating like, where am I? How am I? And really facing that. So I think, that's kind of one of the things that made it really difficult for me. I think being a constantly moving a person and pre-pandemic, going into an office and seeing your friends and socializing and doing all of these things that are centered around not necessarily always connecting with yourself. Like, I think, finally in this pandemic, if you've had the time to be able to sit and really evaluate where you're at as a person, I think it can reveal a lot of things. And, like in my case, it can reveal very dark things and like lead to very dark places that doesn't necessarily feel like you can navigate out of it. But, I think for me, getting out of it was fully realizing that I really needed to just sit with myself, like consuming too much digital, like technology, computer, laptop, phone, everything, news, everything, like, I think stripping all of that stuff away and really just facing myself and trying to really understand how I feel and what's happening in this moment really helped me get out of that kind of mindset that it wasn't going to change.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're able to reflect, and then I think that it's also very like there's a lot of progress in that, a lot of progress in like self-healing, a lot of progress in like discovery of self. It sounded like when you're working, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you're kind of like on autopilot, like in a routine, and then when that stopped, you're thrown out of that schedule. It's like a lot of discomfort because there's like so much uncertainty and
I think what you're talking on and something that I feel is like, generally I feel like when there are a lot more distractions, especially when it's like an environment where you're having to go to work, like there's a commute in between and then there's socializing and there's so much stimuli. I think this pandemic has really allowed forced us to really slow down in a lot of ways, whether or not it was because of something good that happened or bad that happened. Like for me, it was like, I was laid off. So, at that point, I, only had so many other things that I could have been doing. And when you also add the pandemic and shelter in place and not being able to go outside or to open spaces with other people, like that really, limits, all of the stimuli that you could take in from the external world. So, I think a lot of it can feel like going on autopilot, and that certainly, has been my kind of experience as well. But I think when you have all that stimuli around you, it's really hard to connect with yourself. So that's where yoga for me, really came in and kind of forced me in a way to really pay attention to myself more.
Definitely. Awesome. And then, what is something you wish you could tell your younger self?
I'm going to say this. I was like thinking about it this morning too. just chill out. I feel like that's something. Again, there's so much stimuli, there's so much changing in your environment when you're younger. Whether you're in elementary school or junior high or high school, like your environment's constantly changing, and I think we shift very, very early on from having this very egocentric view of the world, and it's like me, satisfy me, and this time and everything's about me. Yeah, I would tell my younger self to just chill out. I feel like I was constantly moving and going and socializing with my friends and just wanting to force so many life experiences to happen because, I don't know, I didn't think that, I was running on limited time and I just needed to do everything that I wanted to do. But I definitely had the mentality of like, okay, at some point, I'm like a control freak. So I'm like, at some point I know I'm going to graduate from high school. I want to go to college. I want to become a doctor. Like I had this like grand like life view for myself that I was just, yeah, again, like on autopilot, like navigating through life experiences in a way that, was moving towards these bigger goals that I had. And, I just could have chilled out. Even now, I think I could tell myself that like, I describe myself like this a lot. I'm like, I am the person who's constantly doing the most. And I'm sure that you can feel this way as well. Because,
definitely, yeah.
I think if there's anyone that's doing more than me, it's probably you. Of people that I know, like you do so much more. And yeah, I feel like I could just tell myself to chill out more.
That's definitely good advice for you and me. So that's a reminder for me, right?
Yeah. I think once you start having so many interests and things you become a lot more curious to so many different things, like in a creative space, in academia, whatever it is. Like, yeah, you just, I think you yourself and myself included just have that natural curiosity towards things. And it's like, once you see something that's shiny and new, it's like, I have to go for it and just try it.
But it's not a bad thing to have eagerness and be curious. I think it's great.
No, not at all. Yeah. I think at some point, for me at least, is like, okay, if I'm going to pursue something like this, now I need to have focus. Like,
yeah, totally.
That's something that, like, that for myself, I'm like, that's what's going to keep me sane.
Yeah.
To make me feel like I'm not, like, floating around this space and I'm, like, doing 20 different things.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm doing 20 different things, but I love it. I love them all.
Yeah.
But
you thrive. I think you thrive in it a lot. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Ralph. All right. What is your goal to achieve in 1 year and 5 years?
Yeah. I think, again, this pandemic, it's like so hard to say what's going to happen even tomorrow.
Definitely.
Like, things are definitely feeling more normal, or just at least normalized in some kind of way, especially here in San Francisco. Like, places are opening up again. There's a lot more outdoor dining. Like, people are going out. Like, I can feel it and I can see it, in the day-to-day. There are a lot more people going out and socializing now. And, so that's feeling great. It's just, like, hard to say what's going to happen in a year from now. Like, I think for at least right now, like one of the strongest passions of mine, like photography, is definitely going to exist in a year from now. I am currently working on printing my work. Like I haven't really printed too much of my work up to this point, so I finally produced some stuff that I'm hoping to submit to a gallery as part of a bigger exhibition in person, because some of the art spaces around here are starting to open up again. So hopefully that is, something that is part of my, next year from now. Like as soon as more places start opening up, especially gallery places, like I've always envisioned my photography, being showcased in that kind of way. So I'm excited to develop that more. So hopefully, we continue to go in a positive trend with opening spaces up, and I'll be able to showcase more of my work outside. I think that is a big one for me, and something that I definitely want to develop and really pursue over the next year and the next 5 years. And then yoga as well. I think, right now my yoga practice is not as regular, and my meditation practice as well, but yoga has always been a thing where I'm like, that's always going to be there. That's something that one of my teachers had said, it's like yoga, everything is yoga. So it's like, and the practice of yoga is always going to be there. Your mat's always going to be there. So whether or not I do it, every day for the next 365 days or over the next 5 years, or, it happens to exist here and there, like, I know it's always there. So those are the two things that I feel like I can speak confidently on, and then it's like everything else is like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, totally. And I definitely feel confident that you're going to strengthen your yoga practice and your photography even in a month. So it's going to be great. And you sparked an idea within me while you're talking. I just thought of it like 2 seconds ago, but I would love to revisit and re-interview you in either 1 or 5 years and see where you're at.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
I think that'd be really cool. Yeah.
I'll be excited to see where you're at as well.
Oh yeah. We'll see how that happens.
Yeah.
Depending how long I have my YouTube. So, but yeah, that would be a cool thing to do in the future.
I love in like my background is in psychology and research, so I'm a fan of the longitudinal longitudinal format. I think there's something so interesting in that, and we as human beings are constantly changing, so it's like there are going to be so many experiences that we have in the coming months, in the next year, in the next 5 years that are going to continue to shape us and really shape our perception of how we navigate through this world. So yeah, that would be interesting. I would be 100% down for that.
That's awesome. And I love docuseries, so this is a step towards that, and I love documenting things, so that'll be fun. That'll be a fun project for later.
Exactly.
All right. Tell us about how you decided to become a certified yoga instructor. And I know you brushed up on a little bit, but tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I think yoga for me, my initial journey, when I was still going to the gym regularly, years and years ago, yoga was one of those things that was constantly offered, so I would just always pop in. So I've always associated yoga with fitness. So every time that I went to a yoga class, I was expecting to sweat. I was expecting to really move my body and explore my body in that kind of way. But it wasn't until the last, a little bit over a year now, I think maybe a year and a half now, that I've been practicing yoga more regularly. And about a year and a half ago, I started practicing in a studio again. And the teachers were, really supportive and encouraged, your own self-exploration beyond your body. So that's when I started getting a little bit more interested in and learning more about what it means to have yoga existing in your mind space with meditation or just sitting, breath work. There are so many different facets of yoga that goes beyond movement that have existed for thousands of years now, so it's that is, the practice of yoga has existed for such a long time. So I think that curiosity, especially as I started to explore more of my mind space, breath work, those facets that were beyond the movement that were super interesting. And I think alongside that, besides the physical benefits of it, of practicing yoga anywhere between 5 to 7 days a week when I started practicing again, to really focusing on the breath, the mind, the present moment, really inquiring into those kinds of things got me just excited about what does this mean to learn more and to go even deeper. And I'm not sure, maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but in my journey, at least as a student, it was always the goal of deepening my practice. I feel that's a very that's a very typical response to have when people ask you oh, why did you decide to join the teacher training program and go into it? And I think it's a very true goal. It's how can I deepen my practice more? How can I learn more about what it is that I'm doing, and one, apply that to myself. And then I think teaching was a secondary thing where, it wasn't necessarily my goal to teach at the end of it, but I had, ideas about what I wanted to explore. Corporate yoga and having yoga offered in a corporate space was something that was introduced to me when I was still working, in a corporate environment. So I was oh, that's actually really interesting. And I think that there's a lot of benefit even doing it once a month, where someone is there to support some kind of journey that you might be having, whether that's physical or emotional, mental, whatever it might be. There's so much benefit that I see in that. So I think as I continue to go on in the program, I was okay, I think I can really I think I can really teach, because there's something so valuable that I found in yoga that that I think just naturally makes you want to share it with others.
Yeah, definitely. I had a similar experience where I never thought I would teach yoga, and I just wanted to deepen my practice. I wanted to physically deepen my practice, learn my forms better, and then also get better at strengthening my core, things like that. Not figuratively. It was more literally for me.
Yeah. And I think for anyone that's listening that's not that doesn't have a practice, like yoga, like I think for everyone involved, it's like you really just want to get better at it. When you're exercising, you just really want to get really good at it. So yeah, that was definitely one of my goals as well. It's like, how can I learn more about alignment and moving my body in a way that feels nice and allows for me to really explore the outer edges of my physical abilities.
Yeah, and then
so it's like
like throughout the program, I also found that like you find your voice. You find your voice in teaching. You find your voice in instructing and like empowering other people, your students, like helping them get into different like poses they never thought they would be able to get into. It's like really beautiful. It's like you like really understand what it means to deepen your practice, like within yourself, within like helping other people strengthen their yoga practice, and it's like such a healing experience for both people. Like you learn from your students, they learn from you. It's like very altruistic. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I am big on community, and that's something that I've treasured a lot in yoga. It's like the ability to bring people together. Like even when I'm teaching, like even if sometimes it's just to my friends, and like this is a great setting to just like be together, and like if we're just flowing together for an hour, even if I'm not moving alongside you, like look at how powerful this is, you know, to be able to bring, especially now during the pandemic when, you know, so much of our interaction with other people is in this online space. Like what a great way to have yoga be a part of that experience.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't feel like so formal, you know?
Yes, yeah. Like I don't teach currently, but I like to show other people how to get deeper into their forms and like teach them things and doing like adjustments on them. But it's really a way of life. Yoga is such a way of life where like you learn like the 8 limbs, and like different ways to practice your daily like yoga practice into like not speaking negatively about yourself, practicing like I don't know, I can't think of them right now, but
no, totally. I think what you're describing is something that I feel a lot of now in my practice. Now that I've been doing it for almost a couple of years now, like there's something so valuable that I found out about myself and my practice with yoga, which is like so much happens on the mat, and for a long time my experience was very like mat focused, where like again, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to deepen my practice. And it was like there's something about being on the mat that my teachers are like, have this exist off the mat, like bring it off the mat, and like I didn't know what that meant for a long time, and I didn't know what that felt like. How can I call upon it? Like I'm like, how can I have this exist when I'm at the grocery store and I'm trying to like navigate through and someone's like in my way, you know, like how does yoga exist in that kind of space? But yeah, I think something that I've really learned in my practice is like it can exist off the mat, and it can exist in like how you described it. It's like how can I be more aware of myself and what's happening in the present moment? But yeah, I think for me, once I started learning and I think identifying and just seeing that more in my normal life, where I'm like, oh, like I can literally just like, if I'm having a crazy time and I'm like thinking about so many things and it's like not even related to yoga, I can just like pause for a moment and like breathe. And like it sounds so like cliche that this is like how yoga is and you're like zenned out, but there's so many like practices within yoga, whether that's breathing practice, whether that's movement, like whether that's, you know, mindfulness meditation and being here in the present moment, that really opens up once you start paying more attention off of the yoga mat. Like if I'm feeling anxious, like I know a breathing technique that I can do to, you know, chill out. And that's from yoga, and that's from practicing and learning more about what feels good.
Yeah. Can you demonstrate for us a little bit of yoga breathing exercises or meditation?
Yeah, definitely. So this is one that I like doing whenever you need to take a pause, honestly. I posted this on my IG stories a few days ago, and yeah, whenever you're on your computer too much or you just need to take a pause and chill out for a moment, I love doing this. So you're sitting in a chair, just find your feet flat on the ground. You can rest your hands wherever they feel nice, palms up or down. And then if you're sitting on the floor, that's also a great option. Sit on a cushion, or if you're laying down, honestly, that feels nice too. So just make sure there's nothing around you. But yeah, so as you're seated in your chair, go ahead and gently close your eyes, or just gaze gently, whatever feels nice to you. just take a moment to begin tuning into your breath. Just immediately notice the quality of your breath. And maybe as you inhale next time, you can sit up a little bit higher, allowing for your spine to become long, the back of your neck to soften, and feeling the connection through the crown of your head. Maybe the next time you exhale, lowering your shoulders away from your ears, allowing for them to release. Let your hands be soft. We'll take a couple deep clearing breaths together. So exhaling all the breath from your lungs, your belly. Inhaling through the nose. Opening your mouth and releasing. Doing that one more time. Inhale through the nose. Open your mouth and let it go. Gently seal your lips. And take another couple moments just to notice how you're feeling. And as you feel ready, gently opening your eyes. Welcome back.
Thank you. Wow, I definitely needed that. I felt so much tension in my body just now, and I definitely needed that.
Yeah, and the practice, like, the longer that you sit, the more that you begin to just notice, things that are happening in your body. Like you had mentioned, I was meditating with a friend one day, and she was like, oh, I could be drinking more water. I'm like, yeah, isn't that funny how your body and your mind start to call out to you just the more you start to pay attention to it. So, yeah, whether it's a minute or 5 minutes or however long, like, there's always something to notice. And, yeah, you can do it so easily, hopefully.
Yeah. You don't need that much time at all. That was less than a minute. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Beautiful.
So I am going to ask you some rapid fire questions. We're kind of winding down. All right. Ready?
Come on, bring it.
All right. Outdoors or indoors?
Outdoors.
Introverted or extroverted?
Extroverted, 100%.
Favorite food?
Anything Filipino home cooked.
Oh, I love that. And then worst advice?
Oh my God, what is the worst advice? Just power through it.
That's the worst advice.
Like it's just like, just power through it. It's like, even when you don't have the energy, just power through it. I feel like that sometimes fails.
Yeah. Best advice?
Just breathe.
That is definitely good advice. I needed that today. All right. So, how can our viewers find you and reach you?
I don't have a website yet. I feel like that's on my constant to-do list, but I haven't developed it yet. So right now I'm on Instagram. You can find my yoga kind of breathing practices that I do. I do post those. And my photography, my account is at ralphcr.film. Come and find me. I'm regularly posting photo stuff, whether that's in film primarily or, I'm starting to post stuff on my phone from like digital photos. So, find me on Instagram.
Yeah. So find Ralph on Instagram at ralphcr.film to follow his film. Or if you want a Zoom video, like yoga session from Ralph, reach out to him too. All right.
Yeah, I totally forgot to say that too. Yeah.
I said it for you, so it's okay. But thank you, Ralph. I had so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fun. This was my first time doing this, and I am honored to be the first person interviewed on your budding YouTube channel.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you for being the first person, and I can't wait to revisit in 1 to 5 years. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, love it. It was good to see you.
Good seeing you, Ralph. Thanks.
Yeah, be well. See ya. Bye.
Bye.